Time for the final word in sports all across the state. You're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts, Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, as we go into the college football season here in the state of South Carolina for the next 2 hours. We're going to give you the best Friday night football talk that you can find anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Plus, a look at what's happening at Darlington as we head into the Bojangles Southern 500 weekend, and a look at the birdies and bogeys around the state of South Carolina, as those of you who love to hit the links this weekend should have plenty of space out there because everybody else will be sitting in those stadiums roasting, watching football games tomorrow. And I do promise that tonight's edition of Sports Talk will be over before Aretha Franklin's funeral is complete. So you can get back to watching the last 2 or 3 hours of that. They're into hour number 7, I heard on my way in to the studio.
Now, if you hear Aretha in your sleep tonight, you'll know why.
Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, Professor Tom Hayes, and Brian Leonard. If you want to jump on board, we'll have some time here very quickly for any final thoughts you might have. But David Shelton will be here in a little bit to talk high school football, the football filibuster with Governor Jim Hodges and Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer, as Andre makes his debut going up against the multi-champion Jim Hodges when it comes to the football filibuster. One's on the right and one is on the left. We'll see how they do with their picks. We'll give you our picks tonight coming up in a little bit. And, of course, Lee Sterling will be here once again this season. Lee Sterling with his Sterling picks from Paramount Sports. So we are ready. I don't know what else we can do to get you ready for the college football season. I see you're wearing the colors of your alma mater.
I am. It's College Colors Day, so therefore I did not wear an actual Mizzou sanctioned shirt because I knew that would create some great ridicule. But this was an old Navy shirt that I got right before college, and amazingly, it still does fit. So,
well,
after the Mizzou 22,
if you were trying to look like Popeye, you'd say it fits.
No, it's more like It's more like a Charlie Brown type shirt.
Yeah.
Really what it is. But it's a cool day. It's a great day for folks who have been waiting for this for a while. And I think, as you go throughout the summer, as you go throughout the spring, you wonder whether or not you're going to get to this point, the eve of game day, or game day itself proper tomorrow morning. As folks get ready to gas up their tailgates and get everything ready to go tomorrow. I'm just excited because this is an appetizer weekend for South Carolina and Clemson fans. Next week is the main course for both of them as we really see what they're all made of. But the appetizer, as we know, can always be still pretty tasty. So I think that there's a lot of tenable excitement and palpable excitement, I think, for both of these teams.
You can put a little salt on some of those teams, too, when you say that they're cupcakes.
Let's give a shout-out to North Greenville.
Yes.
A winner last night at Tusculum. So officially North Greenville on the board as first winner in the state of South Carolina. So that's good for them. A piece of news today, and we'll discuss this, that the attorney for USC safety, Javon Charleston, and a story came out first from David Cloninger, the Post and Courier, at least in the regular media, that Charleston would enter PTI, work towards getting his record cleared, but still nothing from USC regarding his stats with the football team. His situation remains that of being suspended. I think South Carolina, considering what has happened at Ohio State and the current state of affairs when it comes to these kind of issues, I think South Carolina's got to look very closely at this. Let's don't forget, going back to the police report as filed by Sophia Thomas, his former girlfriend. This happened back in June, on June 17th. She said she awoke to find Charleston, her former boyfriend, in her room. She was sleeping. She told police. She eventually ran from the home. He caught up with her, grabbed her by the neck, called her, quote, a dirty slut, end quote, and pushed her down some stairs. He then took her phone. But as she told the state newspaper about that incident, she says it was more complicated. Charleston's not a criminal, she says. She did not want to pursue charges against him. So this has now come to the point where he has been accepted for he's applied for PTI according to his attorney, Columbia's Neil Lurie, attorney for the Stars in Columbia. No word on if it's been accepted. I'm assuming that since they put the word out that it will be accepted. PTI means that he's
been accepted according to David, according to what he said.
Okay, PTI means that you're not. The charges weren't dropped. The police still have the charges against you. This gives you a chance to do things in the community, do community service, and clear your name. That's all well and good. The fact of the matter is that no one is disputing the action that he took towards the woman. This again is a domestic abuse, domestic violence. And so how do you look at it if you're USC? What level of domestic violence rises to the level of we can't touch this, we can't bring you back? Or is there such a thing as a level of domestic violence that is acceptable?
Well, just another wrinkle in that story. If you remember, there was a woman who purported to be the victim in this incident who responded on Twitter and said that Charleston never hit her or harmed her. We haven't gotten that independently confirmed on our site here, but as you know, the law in the state of South Carolina is very complicated when it comes to either expunging a record of this nature or even just you can't just drop a charge of domestic violence. There needs to be some step like this pretrial intervention that takes place. And I think that Will Muschamp would be, like you said, Corn, I think it would be good on him to show some pause and not just automatically say, oh, you're back on the team, you're back practicing. This could be something where Javon Charleston probably will use this year as a full redshirt year, because it just doesn't seem to me like that's something that can get resolved over the course of, say, a couple of weeks or a month. This is something that probably will go into next year.
Of course, we know that at Clemson, DeAndre McDaniel, the former Clemson star safety, had a similar situation with a girlfriend, was arrested for domestic violence. He actually was accused of grabbing her by the hair and pulling her down some stairs and some other things. And he was arrested and charged with that. He was able to come back from that and continue with his career coaching at Clemson, and has moved on and apparently been a fine citizen and all of that. And that seems to have been forgotten. So I don't know, Pro, in light of what's happened at Ohio State, and then we see today Urban Meyer coming out on Twitter.
Yeah.
And basically, I think just making it worse for himself.
He just doesn't know when to shut up.
What did I tell you about Twitter?
Well, in the world of public opinion, he's not making it any better for himself.
No.
But the question is, if you're the University of South Carolina and you've got a situation like this, despite the PTI situation now being in play, is this a player that you allow back in your program?
Well, I think a lot of things have to go into play here, because let's face it, times have changed. And I know what happens in the public view is we're in this direction. Then suddenly they make a course correction and turn off the other side of the road. Here you got to deal with a guy who we have not heard anything else that he has been a model citizen. He would have to undergo, in my opinion, a psychological evaluation. Then we have to look into, is this something frequently that happens with him, or this was a one-time deal? I don't know. But you have to be very careful nowadays. Even a year ago, he might have gotten away with this and been right back on the team, but not anymore.
Like I said, I don't believe anyone would begrudge Will Muschamp if he used the utmost discretion on this topic and played it very conservatively and waited for this entirely to play out. And maybe there are some situations similar to what Roth Felder had to go through with South Carolina. Maybe there's some steps that he'll have to take in order to make that clear that he is committed to being part of the program and that he's a changed man.
All right, 800-956-7266 is our phone number. We'll get the calls as we can. When we come back, however, it's another big Friday night. It's week 2, though some teams be playing their third game. This always just bends my mind when I try to correlate the week and the number of games being played. High school football coming up.
This is the place to talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
We are getting some reaction. I'm not going to say who it is.
I wonder who.
About our take on the Javon Charles situation. It has nothing to do about Ohio State. It has to do more about the sensitivity of the issue at hand, the sensitivity of the fact that domestic violence is something that is very much in the public eye right now, and it's an accusation that's very, very serious. And whether or not Javon Charleston did anything that was beyond what is legal, we can all probably agree and ascertain he was not over there having milk and cookies with the young lady.
Not when she's running out the back door, jumping a fence to try to get away.
And calling the cops.
Yeah. You got anything else you want to say before you go to David?
I'm ready for week 3 of high school football.
If we can keep it straight.
This is 3, right?
This is week 3. Well, this is actually week 2.
It's the third week of
On
games.
the label, it's labeled as week 2, but it's the third week of games as we welcome David Shelton of the High School Sports Report, the Charleston Post and Courier. Yeah. We got to come up with a better system here, David. We complain about this about every 3 weeks, trying to keep it straight.
Well, officially it's week 2 of the high school football season, if that's how you want to be. But I call it, in all my stuff in preparation for the week, all my previews and all that, I say week 2. But, these high school prep writers around the state, they have a real problem with it. They just anti-week 0. But
yeah.
What was last week in college football?
It was week 0.
Week 1.
They called it week 0, which surprised the heck out of me. They were calling it week 0. So
exactly. So I don't care. All I know is on Friday night about 7:30, I'm in a press box somewhere after having a great meal, and that makes me very happy.
Hey, are we going to have trouble with heat and humidity tonight, you think, around the state? Because it's hot and humid out there.
Couple of close calls from what I've heard. I've heard some people in that Whipple thermometer around the 90. That was about an hour ago. It does get cooler. I'm at Fort Dorchester. There's a little breeze blowing. It's hot, but I think it's going to be good enough to. It'll be low enough by the time the game starts to kick off at 7:30.
Before we talk about tonight's games, let's talk about a kid from our state out of Oceanside Academy who started as a true freshman last night for Wake Forest in their overtime win at Tulane, and he was quite good.
Yeah, well, this cat was the MVP of the Shrine Bowl back in December. A lot of people don't remember that, but DeCarrion Joyner was the highlight reel. It didn't play hardly any, and Sam Hartman took over, and they lost the game, but he had a very good game. I saw him play twice last year. I'm not surprised. The kid could play. Now, I do get a little tickle that we call him South Carolina player because he spent about 6 months of his life in South Carolina. He came down and lived on the beach and played quarterback for Oceanside, and he's a kid from North Carolina, but he did play here last year. So, but no surprise to me. He can make all throws. He's a legitimate football player.
Mm-hmm. All right, tonight you're going to watch Fort D play a team from Florida, and your tweet earlier this afternoon, if they win, they'll be undefeated in 3 different states. Yeah. And
Lou Ben's like my good buddy, always has to be a smart aleck, and I have to be careful how I said that. And but they opened with a win over a team in Georgia, and then they beat a South Carolina team last week. And tonight, if they can beat a Florida, that was my little joke that they would be undefeated in 3 states. And I think they're going to win tonight because this is a good team they're playing. Vieira is traditionally a good football team. Glenn Academy in Georgia was a good football team, and Fort handled them pretty well. So it'll be an interesting little matchup. I'm looking forward to watching Fort. Other than just a couple of plays in a scrimmage, I'm looking forward to watching them in a real game.
Have they been able to successfully replace the quarterback and the receiver and some others off that team last year?
Well, I tell you, the quarterback's doing a really good job, DeAndre Sabb. And the thing about him was he was a sophomore last year, but they beat everybody so bad. He played a half of just about every game. So he's not like he was a brand new quarterback. He rolled up some stats himself behind Joyner. The receivers are coming along. They have one guy that is a returner. But I tell you, they got a junior running back that's really good. Khalil Jenkins is a fantastic football player and probably a Division I prospect next year's class.
course, David, a lot of games across the upstate and also in the low country, but one of the teams from the upstate is in my old neck of the woods up in New Jersey. What's the deal with Burns going out to play Don Bosco?
Yeah, it's a return game. They played them last year down in Duncan, and Burns was able to win. So they returned the trip. But it's kind of neat, honestly, to be able to go up that far and, not far from New York City. So I would imagine they probably got, I guess a little sightseeing in today. I would hope. I hope it's just not for a football game. But that's a pretty cool deal, to go around the country and play. And I wish other schools could do that.
Meanwhile, in the Midlands here, I know that there was some traffic across for people trying to get in here. I'm wondering if they're heading to that Lexington-Gilbert matchup, which is expected to be not only a standing room only crowd, but the first time that those two have ever met in football.
Yeah, when I read that earlier this week, I was kind of surprised. I had never realized they had never played. And Gilbert's a very good 3A. I mean, they're a team that can contend for the state title. So it's going to be interesting to see how Lexington can handle them because, Gilbert will be the favorite in that game. They're the better team right now. So it ought to be a fun game, a great atmosphere. That Brooklyn-Casey Spring Valley game will be one just like a great atmosphere.
Yeah, I was about to ask you about that game because Brooklyn-Casey, making a run, making the playoffs, making a run in the playoffs last year, playing better football, and they take on a Spring Valley team. But let's face it, they were annihilated by probably the best team in the state in Dutch Fork. How does Spring Valley rebound? Do you see them rebounding in that game?
Yeah, obviously, I think they'll be more competitive. I think Dutch Fork, like you said, they're just at a different level right now. Spring Valley had a lot of guys to replace, and that was kind of tough to take on a Dutch Fork team that was, didn't get to play the week before because of the weather. So they were a little fired up, ready to go. But Brooklyn-Casey is a legitimate football team. I mean, they're a 4A team that could go far into the playoffs. They're physical, they're powerful, they get after. They got a good quarterback along. Rusty Sharp's son is kind of reminds me of Johnny Manziel the way he plays. But Spring Valley will have their hands full tonight. It wouldn't shock me at all if Brooklyn-Casey won this football game. Just they scrimmaged Berkeley in the preseason, and Berkeley coach told me that they were legitimate. They were for real.
Talking with David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post and Courier here on Sports Talk, our preview of tonight's high school football action. The game I really like, Archer out of Lawrenceville, Georgia at Spartan High. I mean, you're talking about a game that's going to have a half dozen or more Division I major prospects, 2 Clemson commitments on that Archer team, another one who's going to Auburn, the running back at Spartan High, who's a major prospect. How do you like the chances of the Vikings winning that thing?
Well, them being at home, I think helps, and I think that they'll have their crowd behind them. Archer, I haven't seen them play, but you just reeled off, how many prospects they have. They're obviously very talented, a very good program. It'll be difficult for Spartanburg to win that game. They'll have to play very well to win that game. Coming off a loss to Greer last week, they're stinging a little bit. And Archer's not a team that you just want to, kind of show up and hope you get through it, or they'll embarrass you. They're going to have to be ready to play.
Greenville, Belton, Honey Path, your thoughts?
Going to be a good game. I think, we talked about Greenville Monday night. I think they're on the way up. They're trying to break in some new skill people. Got a good quarterback in Bevel. Belton Honey Path's going to bring it hard on defense. Belton Honey Path's got a good quarterback as well, with Cam Bratcher. So, I think that's going to be a very entertaining game. But Greenville's going to have to block them up front because, Belton traditionally is going to bring the wood on defense. So it ought to be a kind of a physical affair.
Okay, David. Thank you, my friend. Enjoy the night. Try and stay cool. Catch you about 10 o'clock.
Okay, man. Take care.
David Shelton, High School Sports Report. Reminder, we'll have high school scoreboards tonight, 10, 10:30, and 11 o'clock. You can hear them live on our affiliates across the state. You can also listen to them live, watch it live on our Periscope on Twitter. By the way, I do want to thank really the thousands of people who are watching and listening to us on our Periscope every night all around the place. It's really cool to have you tuned in that way if you can't get us over one of our 30 great radio stations.
I'm very curious to see how this goes. The first edition of the football filibuster featuring Governor Jim Hodges, Lieutenant Governor Andre Bauer, comes your way next on Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network.
Ah, that musical sound. From years gone by, it can only mean one thing, and one thing only, here on Sports Talk, the return of the football filibuster. I would like to take credit for creating the football filibuster, but it's actually the idea of our one-time governor here in the great state of South Carolina. Actually, he was governor number 114 in the history of the great state of South Carolina, Jim Hodges, multi-time champion of the football filibuster. Governor, how are you?
Why do you think I thought it up? I thought I might be able to win it.
Yes. You have been
okay, Phil.
You have been you won't like this, but you've been the Clemson of the football filibuster here in recent years.
Well, that's a flattering comparison. I hope I can have as much success as they've had the last 5 years.
Well, you have indeed, but we welcome in a new, bright, energetic challenger for you this year as we welcome in the 87th Lieutenant Governor of the great state of South Carolina, Andre Bauer. Andre, how you doing?
Doing great.
Good to have you with us, and congratulations on your marriage earlier this month.
Thank you. At 49 and a half, I guess it was about time to find somebody who would do it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you got it right, and it will last for at least 50 years.
I hope so. She's a good one. I'm very blessed.
Well, let's hope she doesn't judge you by your ability to pick winners and losers here, okay?
Hopefully he picked a winner is what we're thinking.
Well,
already.
yeah, I mean that's the
picked
plan.
The winner. She did.
You did this all on your own, huh?
I'm talking about in marriage.
Yeah.
The winner, she didn't do so well.
I got you. All right, let's get at it. We've got 5 games for you. And, of course, the governor and the lieutenant governor will be picking against the spread. And so, Andre, since you are new to the scene here, we're going to let you lead off. And the governor will pick right after you. And we'll go back and forth here through the list of the 5 games and see how things go. You ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right, here we go. We begin with the last game of the holiday weekend, Virginia Tech at Florida State, and Florida State is laying 7.5 points. What do you think, Andre?
I'm going to take Virginia Tech.
Any particular reason?
No, I think they got a little better team than Florida State. I mean, this is a tough one. I don't know a whole lot about either team, but I feel like Virginia Tech's got a little more there. And, it's so early on in the season, I don't really have a good feel on it, but I'm going to go with Virginia Tech.
I like where his head's at. It's very good.
You like Virginia Tech. Governor, what do you think?
I like where Florida State's headed, but I think Andre's right on this. Early in the season and a little more than a touchdown point spread, probably a little too much. It's more like a field goal game, but I think I'm going to take Virginia Tech in a point.
Vegas already did you a favor and bought you the hook, so there you go.
Hey, Andre, let me warn you here. Now, Governor Hodges gets very strategic in his picks. Sometimes after he hears, the team that you pick, he'll try and, justify his pick to try to offset you just to maybe get a game or two advantage. So keep that in mind.
I served in the legislature with Jim Hodges, and I served in the Senate when he was governor. I know how tough he is to work with. That guy, he's a knuckle buster. I know it.
He'll wear you out. Come
on, now.
All right.
Come on, Andre.
Let's go to this one. Louisville, Alabama, in Orlando. Alabama favored by 24.5. Andre.
I would take Alabama against the Dallas Cowboys.
I hear you. Governor?
I'm with him on that. I think Bama's a little too much. Louisville.
Matter of fact,
no
I'd
longer
take
has
them
Lamar
against
Jackson.
the 79 Steelers.
You take them against the 79 Steelers?
They're not racing. They're not racing hogs. So if they were racing hogs, then maybe you'd give Louisville a better shot just because of Petrino's expertise there.
Exactly
what Alabama's got down there is something incredible.
Andre's been known to ride a hog or two, right? You're a Harley man, aren't you?
I have.
Yeah.
So is Bobby to infamy though, more so.
All right, you both got Bama, you both got Tech. Let's go to Washington and Auburn. Big game here to open the season for both of these teams. Important for them down the road. Auburn's favored by 2, playing this one in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Andre.
I'm going to go with Auburn. Again, it's kind of a toss-up for me. I don't know enough about each team, but at the end of the day, if I've got to pick one, I'm going to go with the SEC school.
Mm-hmm. Laying 2 points. Governor, what do you think, sir?
I am going the opposite. I'm going with the Huskies. I think this is the Huskies' year. and they're a really good team. I like Auburn, but I think the Huskies have got a little too much firepower for them and a little too much defense.
Long trip, Governor. Long trip.
Long trip, but that's going to be the Huskies.
But you know what? They fly first class and they stay in a 5-star hotel. What's so tough about that?
Long trip.
You get taxi to and from.
And also, Peterson brought a Boise State team for a long trip and knocked off Georgia right into Georgia Dome.
He did.
Wore them.
Do you
right.
you see Washington in the playoffs, Governor?
I do.
Yeah.
I think Washington, if they get through this game, they may go undefeated. I think they're really good this year, and I think their success, was it last year that they made it to the Final Four? But I think their success and all that is
2 years ago.
It's going to benefit them.
All right, which one of you is standing on the beach, Andre?
It's me standing on Assembly Street.
Oh,
You could have just walked right into our
yeah,
studios.
you could have come on. We're just down the street from you on Main Street.
Y'all didn't invite me.
Well, you have an open invitation, and so does Governor Hodges. He doesn't visit us anymore. He used to
Man, when
visit
you're
us.
a washed-up politician, you sit here, you're panhandling on Assembly Street.
All right, let's go to the in-state. Andre, we've got Furman at Clemson, and the Tigers are laying 42.5 points. Too much, too little, just right.
Well, it depends on what Clemson wants to do. They could make it 75 if they really wanted. Will they take it easy on their friends right down the road? I don't know, but I'm going to take Clemson minus the points. They can control whatever number they want to.
Mm-hmm.
They can easily do more than 42 if they want to, and I think they probably will.
Gov?
I'm with them. The problem for Furman is the backup quarterback's so darn good for Clemson. He's going to come in and light them up. And I think that the second and third teams are so strong that they're just going to keep piling up the points. I think Clemson. I'm going to take Clemson.
Yeah, 9 deep at receiver, 3 deep at quarterback, 4 deep at running back. Yeah.
Hell, they're 3 deep at place kicker.
No,
Easy.
doesn't the Furman quarterback take classes at Clemson?
He is. He's an engineering student. All right, we get to the finale. It's Coastal Carolina at USC. Andre, the Gamecocks are favored by 29.5. Too much, too little, just right.
You're not going to get a breaker on this one. Governor Hodges and I both are USC alumnus, and I think we're always going to go for the Gamecocks. You could take me back to '84, and I pulled for them every game, even when they lost to Navy. They're going to cover the spread. I'm a big Coastal fan. I have a farm right down the road from them, and the racetrack that's less than 2 miles from the school. But at the end of the day, the Gamecocks are going to be too much for them, too much size, too much speed, and they will cover the spread.
You know, you got to remember, it's a long way from your heart to your wallet. Keep that in mind as you make these picks. Governor.
Well, I think my heart's in the same spot as Andre's here. I'm going to take the Cox, and for one particular reason. They normally don't score that many points in opening games, and they keep it tight, but they've got something to prove offensively this year, and I think that fast-paced offense that they have is going to rack up a lot more points than they normally would. So I'm with him on that. I think the Gamecocks are going to cover.
Okay, Andre, here we come to the point in the program where we allow for amendments. Anything you would like to change among your picks, or are you happy with your 5?
Nope, I'm happy with my 5.
Governor, any amendments on your side?
The only thing I'm unhappy about is Andre hanging out on Assembly Street. So I think I'm okay.
Well, you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy your football. Andre, welcome to Sports Talk and the Football Filibuster. We'll talk to you guys next Friday.
Thank you. God bless. Go Cox.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Now, remember, this isn't supposed to be necessarily a Clemson-Carolina thing. It's supposed to be a right-wing, left-wing thing.
Other side of the aisles.
Yeah. So we do have the right matchup there because Andre's over here and Governor's over here politically.
Have we had a Clemson USC on the other side of the aisle?
Oh, yeah, Governor Beasley.
Okay.
And also it started with Jakey Knotts, who's a big Clemson man.
Interesting.
So we've had it all kinds of different ways.
They only disagreed on one. Correct?
Disagree on one, but it's a long season. Last year, Governor Hodges went 49-31.
So whoever wins this week will have a 1-game lead.
That is correct. We'll give you our picks.
That's Mizzou math right there.
Coming up, but after this break, we get some professional help. We all need professional help from time to time.
Some of us more than others.
Lee Sterling picks coming up.
Time to put your money where your mouth is. Put them in the field and let them fight it out. He's a hustler. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no stamps. And if you don't got money, you want some money. If you don't got gas, you won't be getting no. He's a gambler. Spent the house on the young and then we got change.
Show them the next item up for bid.
Time to get some professional help. We heard from the amateurs just a little while ago, the governor and lieutenant governor. In a little bit, you'll hear from us. We're sort of kind of in the middle between amateur and professional.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, we're kind of amateurish in our picks, but we're professional in how we deliver it. This is a real professional who knows what the heck he's talking about. We welcome back for another year here on Sports Talk from ParamountSports.com. He is Lee Sterling. Hello, Lee. Good to have you back with us.
Glad to be back with you guys. Fun time. Could be a fun year. Both teams in your area look pretty darn strong.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And down your way, you know, Miami looks like it could be a contender in its division. I think Florida State bounces back. I think Florida's still a bit of a question mark.
Yeah. I mean, from what I'm hearing, there might be some possible suspension. So got someone who's pretty close to the program. So don't be surprised if you hear something happen tonight, early tomorrow morning.
Which program?
Florida.
Oh,
so
more suspensions.
Something. It's a yearly thing with Florida now.
Well,
so
yeah, new sheriff in town. New sheriff in town.
Yeah.
New sheriff in town, right guy. Might take him a few years. Florida State, I think, it's just a 1 year, rare down year for them. They'll be back.
You think Jimbo was just kind of – I know he was playing an inferior opponent last night, but my goodness, 780-something yards, 40 first downs. You think he was just sort of flexing those muscles just to give Clemson a little something to think about over the next 8 or 9 days?
Maybe a little bit, but he's got some bigger problems. Got to worry about Alabama and Auburn and LSU every year now. So, I think things just went wrong. Francois got hurt in that first game, and he was having some troubles with the administration, and things just spiraled down. And then from what I'm hearing, practices were just a joke last year. Just there was nothing going on. There was no effort from the coaching staff or the players, and that's why they made a change. But I think Jimbo's going to do a job. Don't be surprised in 3 years if he's contending there at Texas A&M.
All right, let's get to your stuff. And before we do, tell folks how they can look in more detail at your information from now over the weekend.
Well, just always check out the website, ParamountSports.com. Got a lot of interesting stuff up there. So let's say you want to see my breakdown on some other games that we're not going to discuss, like a West Virginia and Tennessee or Michigan and Notre Dame. Those videos are up and available for free. You want to hop on board. We've had 25 winning seasons. Every game I give my clients, it's up on the website under recent results. So we went 144 and 104 last year. Use coupon code SAVE1200. SAVE1200 brings the price down from $24.97 to $12.97 for the entire year. You get everything from tonight through the Super Bowl, and you'll get probably 10 to 14 games a week. It's all available, ParamountSports.com, or call us here at the office, 800-400-9741. All
right, you got 3 games on the agenda for us. Let's begin with your boys, Miami, favored by 3 against LSU.
Well, if there's a year to catch LSU, this is the year, I believe. So what you have here with LSU, you might see a similar game to their Citrus Bowl last year against Notre Dame, where there was 38 points scored, just 38. Their defense is real good. Number 12 in the land last year, 39 sacks with 12 interceptions. Only one team scored 26 points on them all year, and that was Mississippi State. Miami just might be a little bit better, 44 sacks and 17 interceptions until things after the first 10 games came crashing down. So the difference here, if LSU had Fournette or Geis at running back, I'm taking LSU. I just don't think they have that guy. They don't have a running back returning who scored a touchdown last year. I like Miami in a low-scoring game, 24-14.
Depending on where you get it, it's less than a one-score line between Washington and Auburn in Atlanta. Neutral site contest. Possible playoff team could come from this. How do you see this one?
Yeah, Auburn, I think it might take them a couple games to get going here. They might be maybe a touchdown from where they were last year. Have to replace a center and a left tackle, which is important in the offensive line. And losing their running backs, Johnson and Petway, those two guys had 24 combined touchdowns. That could be tough. So I think they're going to be more of a passing team this year than in past years. And might not be a great matchup going up against the Washington secondary. Might have the best secondary in the country. So this Washington team, 2 years removed from being in the semifinal game, I think that the reason, if you look at why this is a maybe at least semifinal contender, they do four things. They stop the run, they run the football, they get after the quarterback, and they're plus 13 last year in turnover ratio here. And I got to report Jake Browning put on like 15 pounds. He's finally healthy. He might have a lights-out year. Wrong team's favorite, guys. Washington upsets Auburn 27-21.
And Auburn announces it will never play in Atlanta again, unless it has to for the SEC championship.
Right.
Because their record there is not very good of late. All right.
They're going to deny an invitation to the Peach Bowl? Is that what you're telling me?
I would think so. They'd rather go to the Music City Bowl. And you've got South Carolina on your list. You've got them favored by 29 over the Chanticleers, the battle of the chickens, more or less.
Yeah. First,
they're
big
both
time
chickens.
look ahead here with Georgia up
Gamecocks
next week.
and
So
yeah.
that I think you can't underestimate here. I like the new up-tempo attack here with co-offensive coordinator Brian McClendon taking over. More plays usually means more points. Coastal went through 7 quarterbacks in the last couple of years here. So 6 last year. How about this? 6 took snaps from center. I mean, it's almost unheard of here. They're going to go with Kelton Anderson, who played in 6 games last year. He's their guy. He played in that game against Arkansas when they only lost 39-38. Also have a BC transfer running back, Marcus Outlaw. He can move the chains here. The defense, a problem. They only had 15 sacks and 6 fumble recoveries included with 5 interceptions. I think South Carolina pulls away late. I like them here in this game here, 55-17.
55?
Yeah, 55-17.
It's a lot of points.
Yeah.
Your game of the week, Texas Tech Ole Miss.
Yeah. A lot of people are scratching their heads trying to figure out what's going on here. Near Pick'em game here. Tech's favored by 2. Do they win this game, or can Ole Miss, can they pull off the small upset? You can get the game for free. Just call 800-400-9741. Again, the number 800-400-9741 to get Tech and Ole Miss for free. If you want to hop on board or want to check us out, just always look to the website, ParamountSports.com.
Beautiful. Wouldn't be football season without you. Good to have you back. Talk to you next week.
Guys.
Thank you.
I'm not tipping my hand, but just to once again reiterate, it would take the largest margin of victory in the Will Muschamp era to cover the USC Coastal spread.
Good point. Good point. We give you our thoughts on the games coming up after the break, and plus we'll do recruiting in the next hour as well. We've got the full Monty on NASCAR. We'll talk about what's happening at Darlington. We get ready for the race this weekend. I can tell you that in practice today, in the second round of practice, the top speed, Ryan Newman, 171.698.
And Denny Hamlin had the opening round practice best time, the defending champion at Darlington.
Chase Elliott second in round 2, 171.512. Then Jimmy Johnson fast today in his number 48 winless Chevrolet.
You see Derek Cope is racing this weekend?
I did not.
He's racing the old Bojangles car, the old number 99.
Kyle Busch, he was fourth fastest, and Kurt Busch was 5th fastest.
I mean, I stumped you on something involving Darlington.
I did not know that Mr. Cope had
Who scraped the wall? Somebody had to scrape the wall in practice.
I'm sure somebody did.
Let's see. It was Andre Bauer who went on Assembly Street and scraped the wall there.
Jamie McMurray apparently blew an engine about 8 minutes into practice, so
it's not good.
One piece of news there. Okay, top of the hour. We'll be back.
Segment 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Friday night. Phil Kornblut, Willie P., the Professor, Duke and Army underway in Durham. Second ACC team in action this season. Wake winning last night in overtime at Tulane. In a moment, we're going to talk about the Clemson-Georgia game announced for 2024 in the Mercedes-Benz Dome. Was it 2026?
4.
Yeah, 2024 in the Mercedes-Benz Dome.
6 they play LSU at the other Death Valley.
And then we'll give you our picks. I know you're standing by to hear what we think about the games. And we've added 2 people to the Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge panel. I'll tell you about that in just a moment. Let's take a quick call here on Sports Talk as we go to Mike in Sumter. Hi, Mike. Welcome into Sports Talk.
How you doing, Corn?
Good.
I was just calling on the NASCAR when a driver wins a race, you know, say like Kyle Busch wins this race Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the check goes to the car owner, but what percentage would he get of that, and what is the purse for winning the race in Darling this weekend? I'll hang up and listen to you.
Thank you. It depends on his contract. Every driver has a contract with a team owner. In that contract, it tells you how much of a percentage he gets of the purse that they win by winning a race or where they finish. You know, every position pays a decreasing amount of money. They used to post those figures race by race. They don't do that anymore. And of course, there are a bunch of, besides the money you win for finishing first by being a winner, depending on your sponsors, you have additional monies that go into your take from each race. And that's why even, you know, sometimes a driver might finish, say, 10th, but he'll make more money than the guy who finished 3rd because of what he gets from his sponsors.
So in 2016, basically this was the story that you're talking about. They stopped putting out the race winnings by saying it's not contemporary under the new system because of the fact that you get revenue from different places and different incentives, and everybody's contract is different. We've changed a lot of things from the models to the model that we have currently now. It's one of the things that was different time and place. It's not necessarily as cut and dry as someone wins, they get this amount of money, they get second, they get this amount of money.
Right. I'm just trying to think from years past. I mean, they have upped it quite a bit over the years, and I believe now that I would think that Darlington to the winner would pay certainly over 6 figures. We're talking 100,000 plus, but I can't tell you an exact figure because, again, they don't publish those numbers anymore. But
no.
Also, they can get the additional money from their sponsors.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate your phone call. So the news came out this morning. Of course, we had Dan Radakovich on with us earlier in the week, and he said something was coming down soon on the Clemson-Georgia, we thought, series, but it turns out to be just a single game. August 31, 2024, the Chick-fil-A game, the kickoff game in Atlanta. Kickoff time will be announced at a later date whenever ESPN decides to put one on it. It'll be Clemson and Georgia. Of course, they are longtime rivals. This will be the 65th all-time meeting between the two. And there you go. They're going to get back at it in it seems like a long time away, 2024.
So this was something they were looking at possibly to get a 2021 game possibly on the slate. That was the next nearest point from now where they each had a common opening. That year, Georgia has home games against San Jose State, UAB, and then at Georgia Tech. So they, of course, weren't necessarily wanting to entertain the thought of having to go to Clemson in that year because they wanted to maintain another home date. They wanted to get that 7th home date. And, of course, Clemson has a similar situation where they have to go to South Carolina, so they want that 7th home date. It's funny how all these schools want to have 7 home dates, 5 road dates, or at least 5 away from home in order to maintain that integrity. So the one that they basically agreed on was 2024. When Clemson gets South Carolina at home, they don't have to give up a home date that they would normally get. They actually probably end up getting Appalachian State, the Citadel, and South Carolina as home games, and the 4 conference games as well that they would play in the ACC, and a neutral site contest. So they only will play 4 true road games all year in that year, of course, including the neutral site contest with Georgia and Atlanta.
Now, you said the date was August 31st, which makes me believe, of course, that will be the
season
opening game of the season.
Well, who knows?
Love to see those teams have a game under their belts before they meet, to shake out all the
Chick-fil-A kickoff event.
Well, exactly.
Keep in mind, guys, that's 7 years. That's 7 football seasons.
I was about to say, keep in mind that the guys we're talking about are probably in middle school as we
say. They're not even on the recruiting trail yet.
Who will be where in 7 years? Coaching those teams, quarterbacking those teams, talking about those teams. Who will be where?
Who is more likely to be at their respective school, Kirby Smart or Dabo Swinney? That's a question.
Well, I mean, I think there's no doubt that when it's time for God to step down at Alabama, both of those guys will be
contacted,
strongly talked about.
There'll be contacts for both.
I still say,
and there'll be contacts for both and a hefty raise for one.
But why would you want to go? Why would you want to go there from where you are if you're Smart or you're Swinney? Because you can get to right where Alabama is from where you are.
Both.
And be extremely well paid.
Both guys' agents, they don't say Alabama. They don't call it Alabama. They call it ATM machine.
Yes.
Because I don't think if both of them are doing well, I don't think either one of them go to Alabama, but they will own the farm because Alabama is interested in them.
Okay, time for our first edition of the Palmetto
Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge.
No, that's not it. The Sports Talk Pigskin. No, that's not it. The Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge.
I literally just said that.
Yes. I like the way you said it. I didn't say it well. The Sports Talk Pick'em Challenge. And we have 2 new participants this year. Let me remind everybody that last year I was the champion with a record of 45-35. Pro finished tied for third with you at 40-40. You guys were 500.
Yes.
You weren't even
fair to Midland.
You weren't even well, you're better than the Mets.
Yeah.
Second was Bobby Hart and the Big Kahuna at 43-37. He finished 2 games back of El Champino. Dead last would be Matt the Newsman and Kevin Cohen, and the bad boy Alan Smothers finished next to last. We add Fran Halloran, the money coach, and our esteemed producer Brian Leonard to the panel this year. So Florida State and Virginia Tech, and only 2 of us are taking Florida State. That would be me and the money coach.
Have fun with that.
I think Florida State's going to surprise.
Okay.
I think they're going to surprise.
Have fun with that.
I mean, they've got 2 Heisman Trophy candidates in their backfield.
You and the money coach can have a lot of fun on that island together.
They've got some new enthusiasm. Willie Taggart's come in. He wants to prove himself, et cetera, et cetera.
You can play some Beatles vinyls while you're on that island together, too. You marooned?
Louisville and Alabama. Alabama is giving up 24.5, and let's see. Everybody is taking Alabama except for Matt the Newsman and Kev Cohen.
Gotcha.
So we all agree here on Alabama.
Alabama.
Washington, Auburn. Auburn is favored by 2, and it looks like, let me see, across the board, everybody's picking Auburn.
Really?
Everybody took Auburn.
I wanted to take Washington, but I didn't have enough cojones.
Yeah, I mean, I still got to it's going to be like home field for Auburn.
Yeah. Long trip.
Yeah, don't worry about the long trip. I mean, they have nice jets that come out of Seattle.
Long trip.
Made by Boeing right here in South Carolina and sent back to Washington.
Long trip.
Furman, here's where it gets dicey for everybody now. Gets dicey here. Furman at Clemson, 42.5.
A lot of points.
Oh, you know what? More people than I would have thought took Furman and the points.
Really?
Me, Pro, Matt the Newsman, and the bad boy.
It's because you're not all in.
Well, I just believe in Furman.
Sure you do.
I believe in the Purple Pride.
You believe in FU?
I believe in Furman.
Gotcha.
FU all the time.
Gotcha.
There you go.
USC and Coastal. And, more people. Oh, my gosh. A lot of people taking the points. Pro, you're taking the points. Wilford.
Yes.
Matt the Newsman, Kev Cohen, Bobby the Big Kahuna. Fran, no. That's it. All you guys are taking the points. The rest of us are taking the Gamecocks, saying they will cover.
I don't know. Again, they have to score more points than they've ever won by in the Muschamp era in order to cover the spread.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
We are back on Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. We are brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. Whether it's low rates, high rewards, using select Founders credit cards on clothes, school supplies, a new computer, even college tuition will help prepare your kids for their first day of school. Apply online at foundersfcu.com/visa. A couple of scores among opponents on Clemson's schedule. Syracuse blowing out Western Michigan at the moment. 31-7 is the score right now between them and West Michigan. That game is in the second quarter.
Give me that one again.
31-7, Syracuse leading Western Michigan. I think that's at Western Michigan as well.
Okay.
And Duke leads Army 3-0. And here's a little surprise. This is not an opponent of South Carolina or Clemson, but Utah State has taken an early lead on Michigan State, 7-3 in East Lansing.
Now, last night, if you're looking ahead to Clemson, Texas A&M, and who isn't, 59-7.
No one inside that Clemson locker room is.
Yeah, 59-7 for Texas A&M. Of course, they had 95,000 announced at that game last night.
I am so impressed whenever they bring out a crowd at that place. I mean, I will talk up the two programs here in the state. For as much as they have support for their programs, the support for these programs is amazing. Texas A&M drew 102,000 a couple of years back when I was first in Houston. 102,000 for a non-conference game against Rice.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful out there. It's special. It's an experience to go to one of their football games.
They are cult-like.
The thing, I covered my first game out there the first time Clemson went to A&M when Tommy Bowden was the coach. In fact, George W. came to the game. I was amazed by the fact that the airport is right there just off the campus. And
you flew into College Station?
No, I flew into Houston.
Oh, okay.
But you could see the airport from right there at the campus.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, the George Bush Library and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But the one thing I heard from Clemson fans who I talked to afterwards, and also from Gamecock fans at times I've gone out there to cover the Gamecocks with Texas A&M, how friendly,
very hospitable
the fans are out there. And that is just one beautiful stadium.
That place in Nebraska have always been kind of 1 and 1A of the most hospitable fan bases for a road crowd.
Wonder how hospitable they are when Texas comes in.
It is an absolute crime those two aren't playing. An absolute crime. I mean, I cannot believe their legislature is not forcing those teams to play. Those are state-supported schools. By God, you're going to play. I don't care what your league situation is. You're going to play.
Well, the weird thing is there's kind of a little bit of a back and forth match about, who needs this game more? They don't need this game because
the people need the game.
That's kind of what I think.
Yeah.
And the problem with Texas, the University of Texas, is that they have that 9-game conference schedule in the Big 12. So they have that round robin where they have one less non-conference game.
You got to play the game.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that's their justification. It's their justification.
So last night, Texas A&M, this is how you beat a team badly. 40 first downs, 503 yards rushing, averaging 8 yards per rush, 255 yards passing. They had 758 total yards, averaging 7.9 yards per play. Their running back, Travion Williams, on 20 rushes, 240 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's an average of 12 yards per carry, or 2 yards more than a first down every time he touched it. Kellen Mond, 17 of 25, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, look, I get it. They were basically playing against air.
Northwestern State.
On defense. I get that.
Not Northwestern. State.
But it's pretty sharp start for them. I mean, you look for sharpness in your opening game, regardless of the opponent. They didn't play down to their opponent is what I'm getting at. They played up. And
35 skunk at half is not playing down to your opponent.
Right. And they came out ready to play.
And they had one of their starters go out after the third play because I think he got called for targeting.
Look out when Clemson is game planning their defense. Look out for the tight end Sternberger. This is something that they apparently have not utilized at Texas A&M. Jimbo will.
Same thing as South Carolina. Too soon.
Five catches, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. Steve Tannehill. You're taking from Steve.
We've both been on. I've been on the they don't use Hayden Hurst enough train. That was something I originated last year.
What did I tell you last year?
You told me he was going to be a first-round pick.
No, but I also told you because of some weakness in those guards.
Oh yeah, because they're
going to have to use him primarily as a blocker.
Yeah,
and that's what they had to do.
And it made him some money.
It did.
All right, so now it's time. I haven't told you guys about this. We're debuting a new feature here on Sports Talk. It's called the Friday Night Uniform Report. So I will be wearing tomorrow my hunting slacks. They're very comfortable for game time conditions. Along with my Adidas shoes.
Utility shirt?
a navy blue, probably a dark blue golf shirt.
Okay.
No cap. That'll be my uniform. Yours?
I'm in between either my white Palmetto flag shirt or my dark blue Palmetto flag shirt or my Learfield polo. I'm in between those three. I will probably have to do a Twitter poll tonight on those three, depending on which one I want to wear.
What amount of orange or purple? You could wear purple and be kind of right in the middle between the two schools.
I do not prefer to wear the colors of the schools in the press box because that is not something that I feel is journalistically sound.
And your attire for tomorrow's game?
Jeans, pullover. I'm going to bring my jacket because the air conditioning gets cold. And I will be breaking out my new gray Fila high top.
Now,
sneakers.
this is a serious question. I asked David Shelton of this. We're talking about basically noon kickoffs, Columbia, and I haven't checked the forecast. I mean, if it's anything like today, are we looking at the potential of delays because of the heat and humidity?
No.
I think what they might do is they might have sometimes they agree to before the game, they agree to have a particular break period, like in between the first and second quarters.
But if that what's that tool called?
They'll have that thing.
Bell thermometer, the bulb thermometer.
If that thing reads a certain amount, it doesn't matter what kind of breaks they got planned. The law or the rules say you can't play.
Around 89-ish degrees in Columbia. No precipitation for tomorrow, but 48% humidity. That's not going to be fun.
Well, 48% is not bad.
That's at the start, though.
Yeah,
it gets worse.
I'm excited to see. You know what I'm excited to see? This newest addition to Williams-Brice, the SEC commercial countdown clock.
It'll be a little bit cooler at Clemson, 85, 86 degrees, 58% humidity though.
Do we know where they're putting it? The commercial countdown clock.
The guy who has the red hat is going to have the clock
in his hand
instead of having.
So he'll be walking around with it, kind of like
he'll walk on the field and he'll have it basically, and he'll stab it in the like I don't know
why. Seriously, why?
So you know
does
how
the SEC why?
So you know how long you need to go get a soda? Or
I mean, that's
take a whiz.
That's just another piece of technology that's not necessary.
Well, the thing about it is, I think
they think that's a way of appealing to the fans. Enjoy, in stadium.
So many
enjoyment.
times. I mean, there are a lot of people who complain about the TV timeouts when they go to games. So.
Well, they complain about the reviews. I mean, do we have a clock for review? That's what we need a clock for. Put the reviews on a 90-second countdown.
I don't mind. The only thing I would say is when they have the breaks, I don't care what it is.
All gas, no breaks.
Have more highlights have more highlights of other games on the big screen.
That's what I would think. Well, there are some
Hang on, he's in the middle of one of his own jokes.
No,
so
no, stop it. So they've done this in some NFL stadiums that I've been to. Is like they will literally cut in the middle of the preview and they will start showing, hey, they'll do live look-ins at certain games. Why don't they do that at South Carolina and Clemson?
They do that.
Yeah, they do that. They've done that during like halftime and pregame, especially big SEC games, especially when South Carolina in the 3 years when they were in contention in the East.
So you're saying they had to be good is what you're telling me.
Well, I can remember sitting there prior to a South Carolina Florida game.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. And them cutting to the Georgia-Auburn game, for example, because USC and Georgia were battling for the East and South Carolina was right in it to the last week. And one year it turned out that they won it.
Was South Carolina playing during the kick six when you were?
I think they were.
The kick six was Auburn, Alabama.
Yeah.
The week before they had
the Georgia
game,
Auburn.
Which was the catch six, right?
Yes.
Wasn't that the Hail Mary?
Ricardo
here's the point. It's better to have a highlight on that screen than showing your players lifting weights after they got stuffed on the 3rd and 1. So there's where the timing comes in.
You're funny.
Who did that?
They did last
they
year.
did it with Brian.
Show them lifting weights?
After they got stuffed on a 3rd and 1.
Yeah, after they got
Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We'll continue to monitor what's going on at Duke and Army. Duke still leads 3-0. Army missed a field goal. Duke is now currently in plus territory. It's 7-6 in favor of Utah State, leading Michigan State, beg your pardon, as they play currently in the first quarter. We are awaiting, of course, Wisconsin and Western Kentucky tonight for those who are watching that game, not just in a casual manner, but maybe for more than entertainment purposes, not singling out anybody. Or
yeah, I kind of like Western Kentucky getting those points, 37. Well, I think they're a pretty good offensive team. They've been a good offensive team. They've always had good quarterbacks. Wisconsin, I know they're going to just run it down their throat behind those big linemen and Jonathan Taylor, and they're going to score. But I think Western Kentucky, I think, is going to score a few points to kind of use that 37 to their advantage.
Syracuse 34-7 up on Western Michigan at Western Michigan. Eric Dungy is 4 of 13 for 104 yards and a touchdown, but he's ran 10 times for 164. So there you go.
And Wisconsin, of course, 2 of their top 4 receivers are out, been suspended.
The full Monty on NASCAR. Monty is not available tonight because of
track penalty.
Yeah. I wish. No, he is doing a football game, so he's not available. I'll just recap the best averages today in practice for the top 5 drivers. Denny Hamlin had your best 10-lap average, 168.715. Paul Menard, 168.228. Kevin Harvick, 167.755. Clint Boyer, 167.443. And Jimmy Johnson, 167.088. You can tell perhaps that the heat, that's a 168. That's pretty fast at Darlington. It's down some from what you'll see in qualifying, which will probably top, 170 something. I imagine the heat today, mid-afternoon, they didn't begin practice until 2 o'clock. So, heat saps energy out of those cars and speed out of those off the track. So it's probably one of the reasons why it's a little bit slower than expected. Maybe.
I was reading an article today by Jay Busby of Yahoo. He was talking, doing some juxtaposition between Dawsonville, Georgia, and Darlington, South Carolina. Of course, Dawsonville, the big home of Bill Elliott, and they have the Georgia Racing Hall of Fame there, and a lot of stuff dedicated to Bill Elliott from that. But from the standpoint of obviously a time gone by, and as NASCAR throws back this weekend, he went into the question and he asked the question, how does NASCAR cater to the new fan by also satisfying the fact that much of its current fan base, or at least what is left of its fan base, still harkens to a bygone era where they thought things were better than they are now?
They haven't resolved that, to be honest with you. They haven't resolved it. The one thing that they did, of course, is overbuild. These palaces, these racing palaces of speed during the height of the interest in NASCAR. They made them so big. And so now when we watch the races and we see all the open spaces in the stands, the fan looks and goes, man, that place is empty. Even Bristol, when they had the night race at Bristol, a lot of empty seats. They might still have, say, 90,000 there. Yeah. From a football game standpoint, you'd go, wow, that's a great figure. But for a place that seats 150 plus, you say, a lot of empty space, a lot of unsold tickets. How can they sustain that moving forward?
Yeah, the question was, how do you bring in new, younger fans, blank slates with no connection to the sports history when you've got a loud, entrenched segment focused firmly on the supposedly better days of the past? I don't know if there is I don't know enough about it to know whether, bygone era is better or the era currently is better. I would think that with the amount of technology you can put in these race cars and these race tracks, that anything that is newer has evolved the sport. But the problem is they haven't figured out a way to market the sport the way that those drivers of a bygone era were marketed.
Well, you got to remember that NASCAR was very provincial, and it was a southern sport. And see, here's the problem. Not only did they expand the sport with building these tracks, as Phil said, but it tended to me that they disrespected the fan while they were doing it. Because look what they did to Darlington. Take them out of their regular rotation and put them around Mother's Day. You don't do that to those. That's just like telling them to close Wrigley Field. Just close it.
Here's another thought, though. Today's sports fan, young person growing up, millennial, 20-something, 30-something, do they have the love affair with a car and the speed and the smell of the gas and the big engines and all that we had 30, 40 years ago when people truly loved their cars, loved to go fast? I mean, today's millennial, where are they driving? They're driving battery-powered cars. They're driving – well, they are. I mean, you know, they're driving eco-friendly cars. They're not driving the kind of cars that the people of the 60s and 70s used to drive on the streets and then go watch run on the weekend.
Yeah, they want to see you have to have some Uber drivers going around the track.
maybe they got to radio control cars or something like that, or robotic cars.
All right, a couple of quick things I want to do, and then we got a phone call coming in. We'll get to that in a second.
Recruiting.
Yeah, I got to do recruiting in a second, but there are a couple of announcements I want to make. First of all, congratulations to our good friend Teddy Hefner. No, he did not get married again. He will be covering his 50th season of USC football starting on Saturday. So pretty cool for Teddy. Congratulations on that. Here at Sports Talk, Labor Day weekend is our official anniversary. We'll be starting our 35th year of college football here on Sports Talk. I dare say that there's no other network sports talk show in the country 35 years old. Might be some individual shows, but certainly not a network radio show in a state or in a region or nationally 35 years old. So we're pretty proud of the fact that we're kicking 35 starting this weekend. And on Monday's our official anniversary because we started on Labor Day Monday of 1984. Remember that, Pro? Yeah,
No,
sure you do.
I probably do.
What do you mean you probably do? I don't think you were there. You were somewhere else.
It looked like George Orwell's 1984.
Yeah. So anyway, congratulations to us, since nobody else will congratulate us. I thought that I would throw that out there. Now, we got some recruiting coming at you here on Sports Talk. And let's see. First of all, want to begin with some football stuff, and then we got some basketball stuff. Johnny Dixon, the cornerback out of Tampa, remains one of USC's top targets for the 19 class. The Gamecocks, Penn State, Miami, and Florida are in touch with the Gamecocks and Nittany Lions, pushing for him the hardest at this point. Took his official visit to USC in June. He says Will Muschamp is in regular communication with him, and they try and talk as much as possible, he said. And he said that Muschamp really wants him to be a part of the program. He has an official visit set with Penn State September 28th, the weekend of the Ohio State game. His decision, he said, will come soon after that. Right now, he does not have plans for a return visit to USC. He also visited Florida and Miami unofficially in late July and has not scheduled a return visit to either at this point. No favorite. Offensive lineman Trevor Keegan of Crystal Lake, Illinois, has his list down to Clemson, Georgia, Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State. He was at Clemson earlier in the summer. He'll be back this season or shortly thereafter for an official. Though he's way up in Big Ten country, he's well aware of what Clemson has been doing in recent years. He's been impressed by that and by Sweeney, and he talks a lot with offensive line coach Robbie Caldwell. They keep in regular contact. Most likely will sign in December, but will not graduate until the spring, no later. Defensive lineman James Middleton of Fort Dorchester and Jones County Junior College, Mississippi, said USC continues to check up on him through his head coach at Jones, Steve Buckley. He's not talked directly with the Gamecocks since he arrived at Jones in January. He did take an unofficial to USC last December, said he's doing well academically. He's on track to sign in February, graduate in May, and he hopes to sign with the Gamecocks if they will take him. At 4 years to play 3 at the next level. You might recall he suffered a broken leg late in his senior season. Clemson and USC 2020 cornerback target Luke Hill of Washington, D.C. has set 5 o'clock tomorrow for his commitment announcement. Running back linebacker Quavaris Crouch of Charlotte told Rivals Thursday he will visit USC unofficially for the Georgia game. He's looking at the Duke game for his Clemson official visit, or it might take place in December. In basketball, per a Columbia high school basketball source, 6'7" Christian Brown will not return to Lower Richland for his senior season. He is looking to relocate in Georgia. So this is the second stud in the 2019 class in state to leave, and this will be his third high school. A couple of more notes, and George Bryan coming up.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
George Bryan III will give us birdies and bogeys across the state of South Carolina in just a moment as they play the Dell Technologies Championship at TPC Boston, which is in Norton, Mass. Norton! You have more recruiting.
Yeah, I just want to finish up the recruiting. So we're talking about Christian Brown not coming back to Little Richland. That goes along with the young man from Gray Collegiate not returning.
EJ Burns?
No. Burns is already at Tennessee.
Yeah.
Jawan
Gary. Yeah. So all of a sudden, that class that looked so good in state, not going to be there. Anyway, Brown is taking an official to Clemson this weekend as previously scheduled. He's already been to UNLV, Georgia, LSU, and Texas Tech, others on a short list. Malcolm Wilson of Ridgeview, the 6'11 kid, visiting Rice officially this weekend. Visits to Clemson and Georgetown. 6'1 Trey Jackson of Blythewood going to Winthrop this weekend. He's been to Murray State. 2020 point guard Miles Tate of Dorman taking an unofficial to USC tomorrow. He'll be coming in for the football game and to see basketball. And with that,
with South Carolina not getting Christian Brown, does that mean you are not going to be mad when they don't get South Carolina native Christian Brown?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know these kids. This will be his third high school. I think he went through 4 AAU teams, I'm told. Look, kids can do what they want to do, but whatever. How do you get a high school education when you're changing high schools
That's very difficult.
every year?
Ask Army brats. They figure it out.
Well, that's true. All right, let's speaking of well, he's not a brat, but he knows how to walk left and right down a fairway. It's George Bryan III, birdies and bogeys here on Sports Talk as we go to George. Quick update on that leaderboard at the Dell Technologies after the first round. They didn't start till today. It's Justin Rose, your leader, at 6 under. Russell Knox and Abraham Unser at 5 under. As far as locals, Dustin Johnson's at 3. Kevin Kisner's at 2. Kyle Stanley's at 1. And Russell Henley is even. Tiger is at +1, as is Bubba, as is Phil. And I wanted to mention Jordan Spieth is at -2. So there you go with that. George, what's going on around the state?
Well, I want to congratulate the Lexington Wildcat girls golf team because this past week they traveled over to Myrtle Beach and just absolutely annihilated the field. There were 15 teams in this high school field, and hey, the women's or girls golf is played in the fall, which I think is a fantastic idea. Boys is the spring, girls is in the fall, and the Lady Wildcats won by 25 shots. Isabella Rawl plays first there with scores of 71-71. And so one of the things we've talked about now for 20 years is especially your forecasting ability.
Yes.
When you are in this chair that you're in and surrounded by those teams, Will and the pro, I mean, you really excel. And one of the things, I mean, we don't miss. When we get together, the team, we just don't miss. And these young Wildcats, they really can play. We'll be talking about these players for a lot of years to come. Isabella Rawl, she plays first. And then we spoke last week about Molly Hardwick. And Molly's 14-year-old freshman. Isabella is a sophomore. She plays second with a 143 total, one shot back of Isabella. But 5 players, these 5 players, and for girls high school golf could be the best team in the history of all golf. I'm talking in the history of girls golf. They are completely amazing.
Is Isabella part of that famous Rawl family of Lexington out that way, producing all these athletes?
You know, there were Raw girls that played volleyball when I was in college. And that's something. Hey, I've got to investigate that.
There was a Cindy Rawl that played basketball at USC, wasn't it? Cindy from Lexington.
I think it was.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there was Rawls in the early '80s that played volleyball too. Twins, I think. And I will. Assignment that will be fun to run down. So.
It's a singer, Lou Rawls, but that's not the same.
No, it's not the same as Lou Rawls. No. There's no S on the end of this. It's just Rawl.
Yeah, I'm there.
Hey, George, did you see the story? I think Doug Ferguson from the AP wrote it about potential changes coming to the FedEx playoffs and new way of doing the scoring and all this kind of stuff. Did you pay attention to that?
you know what? My reading comprehension is low, but I did read it. I did read it, and what I began to do is talk to Wesley more about it. And based on what little I know, I kind of like it. Where there's, it seems like a blend, maybe, and I'm taking a shot at this. A little bit like the car racing, a little bit like that, as far as the way you can accumulate, and so it could be, some degree of a progression that makes a difference. But I don't know details. You tell me what you think about what you know.
I read it, and I couldn't figure it out. It was, too much of this, too much of that. Points for this, points for that. Going to cut here, cut there. They're going to reduce the playoffs by one stop. And they were also talking about whether or not the Wyndham's Championship would continue to be the last regular season event or something else. So it was, that was a little bit too confusing for me here during football mode. Maybe in the spring, if I had read it, it'd be a little more clear.
Well, in short, it looks like the player that heads into the lead, who wins the season, is going to have a little bit of he's going to be rewarded, in my opinion, to some degree fairly, based on what I could tell. It's a little bit like giving somebody a head start, but a deserving head start.
Well, their concern was, I think it was 2 years ago, that Justin Thomas won the FedEx and Shoffley won the Tour Championship, won that tournament, the Tour Championship, or maybe it's the other way around. And it was like the attention was divided. They're trying to make it so that the guy that wins the FedEx also wins the Tour Championship, I guess.
Hey, well, I have to applaud their efforts. I do appreciate the season ending a little shorter. I don't know about the wraparound so much, but I do like the fact that they finish it up a little shorter, and there is a stopping point. So, hey, these are some pretty smart folks in charge, and it's sure.
Oh, really? It's the same. Well, it's the same folks that set up for the U.S. Open, George.
No, it's not. No, it's the
USGA. You gotta say USGA is not the PGA.
I know. I was trying to suck him into that.
The problem I have, George, with both NASCAR and the PGA's playoff systems is that it just seems very forced, fake, and manufactured. And I don't know how you get beyond that.
Well, here's that's show business, man.
I know.
hey, that's where they.
But I can see the guy sitting behind the curtain like the Wizard of Oz.
It's because, George, today's sports fan, 20 years old and up, has got to have a playoff. He can't understand sports. He can't understand the champion unless there's a playoff involved.
Did I say
That's the way it is. Simple-minded people.
Did I say
they don't appreciate sports for sports.
They
got to have a system. They got to have numbers. They got to have all kind of data. They got to have launch angles. They got to have bat speed, club head speed.
I just got done telling you I hate the damn playoff.
I wasn't referring to you.
Okay.
Hey, I tell you what I do. Here is a fact. These young folks do. They like that instant gratification. They got to get it quick. So they're not too patient. And and I'm going to tell you, the PGA Tour, it is, from a sports industry standpoint, they're a bunch of extremely intelligent people that have worked a long time, and that's what they've dedicated their lives and their career for. And this is going to sound like it's a little bit of a sidearm. The USGA is an amateur body with most of the experts that are not professionals in the business of the game.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tremendous difference in the philosophy, and I think that needs to be pointed out.
You enjoy your golf this weekend, my friend. I know you'll be teeing it up somewhere.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about these juniors in the great state of South Carolina.
You got it, my friend. Talk to you next week.
See you low.
You got it. George Bryan III. Duke is walking the dog on Army.
I'm gonna leave right now to go to Clemson because I don't want to get stuck on 85 or 26.
You might ought to do that. You might ought to do that.
Go through Pelzer or whatever.
17-0 Duke over Army. Anything else?
Have a good football Saturday. Be safe.
Yeah.
And hydrate. Don't get soused, maybe.
Reminder, high school scoreboard tonight. We'll have all the scores for you. More in 5 minutes than others give you in 2 hours. Thank you, Will. Thank you, Pro. Thank you, Brian. Great weekend, everybody. See you on Monday.